Husbands Helping Husbands, Farmer Wants a Wife, Season 2. Welcome back as we jump into this recap of Episode 4. You need to step up your flirting game. And we'll get into that later on in the episode so that we can kind of let you know where that title comes from. So, let's get into this. Just once, breath of fresh air, we made it through an entire episode without any crazy drama. Thank you, Fox. Thank you, Farmer Wants a Wife. It's appreciated. So let's go ahead and jump into what happened in last night's episode of Farmer Wants a Wife. And as we did last time, we'll go farmer by farmer and kind of recap how their episode went. Let's go. Farmer Nathan takes Rachel out on his one-on-one date. That one-on-one date is really set up from the fact that Nathan can see that he and Rachel just have some kind of miss. There's not a connection there. He wants to take time to have a sit down with her and talk to her and see where her head's at. During the conversation, she opens up and says she wants to be able to travel the world. She wants to be able to travel extensively. Well, this is Farmer Wants a Wife, not wife wants a traveler or girlfriend wants a traveler or farmer's going to give up his farm and travel the world. Unfortunately, they just don't have the ability to take months off at a time and go do this kind of travel. So Nathan and Rachel have this conversation and they come to terms with it. They realize they're just not meant for each other, but you can see they have a really good bond with each other. So after basically breaking up and heading back to the house, outside of the house, Rachel has a conversation with Nathan and tells him, you need to step up your flirting game. Hence the title of this episode. So obviously there's been some conversation with the ladies inside of his house that they feel like he's a little detached. So Rachel's trying to help him out with that. Hopefully moving forward in the episodes, we'll see that. Let's move on to Nathan's group event of the episode. Well, Nathan purchases some baby chickens and he's going to put them in his chicken coop. Unfortunately, that chicken coop looks like this. Now, in my opinion, he probably just needs to level this chicken coop and rebuild from scratch. But for the course of the episode, they determined that they're just going to take the wiring off the cage and rewire the chicken coop so the chickens get somewhere to stay. Again, this probably isn't the best looking chicken coop, but it's a good little group event for the ladies to kind of see what can be on the farm and how to, what are the smaller tasks that need to be done on a year in, year out basis. Rebuilding the chicken coop, refencing the chicken coop, really just making sure the chicken coop is prepped in a portion to where like the raccoons and the other animals can't get inside of it and attack the chickens. That was his group event. It was kind of nice to watch. He talked to the ladies a little one-on-one and really kind of opened up. Throughout the end of the episode, he really did start taking Rachel's advice. He had a conversation with all the ladies and said, hey, I need to be a little more vulnerable through this process. I'm going to owe it to you. What do you all need from this relationship? And each one of them said one-on-one time. So Nathan understands that's going to be hard because the way they film the show, there's definitely some borders set up by production where they're not allowed to have that true one-on-one time. But Nathan's going to do his best to give them all that one-on-one, and he opts to keep all the ladies at the end of the show, and they jump into the point of a pool party. So you can see that he's trying to be a little more vulnerable, which is great to see. So let's move on to our next farmer. Next, we're going to move into my favorite farmer, Farmer Ty, or as we're going to refer to him from this point forward, Cowboy Ty, because truly, he seems more like a cowboy than a farmer, and I think all the ladies in the house refer to him as Cowboy Ty. So Cowboy Ty has his one-on-one date with Amy. And to me, this is probably the most close-knit group of ladies in any of the houses. They just seem to get along so incredibly well. The conversations there, regardless of what happens throughout the show, I truly feel that the four ladies that are there right now are going to maintain a close bond. Regardless of if Ty ends up with anybody, who Ty ends up with, how the situation goes, I just feel that the four of them are going to be the closest. So Ty and Amy go out on their date, and Ty takes Amy out to one of the local restaurants, which looks like a pretty happening place. And when they get into that restaurant, they truly get into some of those deep conversations that you would expect to see in these kind of shows, like the ones that are really going to let the farmer find out if he can have a wife. So Amy asked the one question about kids. Now, Farmer Ty is 42 years old. He has an 11-year-old daughter, Landon. And during that conversation, he basically shuts down a little bit, in my opinion, and you can see that questioning of, I'm 42 years old, do I want to have kids again? Now, Ty, my guy, I got to say this. I'm a 46-year-old gentleman. I have, 3 daughters and a son on the way in a matter of months. So when you're going through the process of, moving on with your life and finding another woman in your life and finding that extra love, that's just one of the things, one of the conversations that are going to have to come up. And unfortunately, in this kind of show and this kind of series, I really wish they had taken the time prior to production and prior to filming to really sit down with the farmer and all the ladies and find out where they were at in this. Because yeah, this is something that should come up on camera, but it's something that should probably be set as a baseline before filming starts. Ty coming on here, Farmer Wants a Wife, and knowing, the age range of what the ladies were going to be coming on here, a vast majority of them are going to want to be moms. They're going to want to have a family. They're not going to want to be bonus moms. Bonus mom's fine, but you can talk to my wife right now and having two stepdaughters. It's a different experience. It's definitely a different experience, and that's just something that is a reality behind some of these shows. So, Ty, really take into consideration how he feels about that. Hopefully, moving forward, because mid 40s, you can easily have more kids. It's definitely a little more challenging on the energy side, but it's a great experience. I mean, it really is. And when it brings you closer and connects you with somebody, it's absolutely worth it. So, Ty, there's definitely potential at the age you are to have, more kids. So don't sign yourself off on that. But I don't feel like they showed a lot of this date between Ty and Amy. It feels like they got to that point about the kids and they kind of cut off the rest of it there. So I'm sure more happened behind the scenes where they got to connect and talk a little bit more. But that's what they focused on at this point was, oh no, Ty doesn't want to have kids at 42. And, that's kind of a red flag for the ladies, unfortunately. So hopefully they work through that as they move forward. Now let's move on to Ty's group activity, which to me was pretty awesome. Again, being a dad with 3 daughters and soon to be a son is a pretty awesome experience to see. Pretty big experience for the ladies here. They all get to meet Ty's daughter, Lennon. Now, what's nice about this is Lennon actually gives all the ladies one-on-one horse lessons, and as they go through these horse lessons, it's really no surprise that Megan and Lennon get along the best. Megan is a teacher. We find out throughout the interaction that Lennon also wants to be a teacher, so they have some natural connection there. So at the end of this little portion, Ty asks Lennon how he feels about all the ladies, and Lennon gravitates towards Megan because, again, they do have some connection. They do have something that they can relate to amongst each other, and that conversation point was there. Lennon actually says to Ty, that the other ladies didn't really say a lot when they was walking around. She was leaning around on a horse, and it was kind of silent. So they did make sure they pointed that out. I'm sure that that's very difficult for other ladies. It's probably not the easiest thing, to get on the horse maybe for the first time for some of them, or second or third time for some of them. Meet Ty's daughter, which probably in itself is overwhelming. Again, being a father and going through, a divorce and a remarriage, that's definitely nerve-wracking at times to introduce and go through the whole process. It's just unnatural sometimes. So I'm sure that was difficult. But Megan, again, as a teacher, just opened up, was able to interact with Lennon, and Lennon kind of really leaned towards her. By the end of the episode, when Ty had to sit down at dinner and decide if he was going to send anybody home, I have so much respect for the man because he looked at it of, I can't introduce all these ladies to my daughter and then send one home. That's just, he's now involved his daughter in the process, and he truly felt that he can't involve his daughter and then send one of the ladies home. So he opts to keep all the ladies there, which is fantastic. Look forward to what this group has to offer next week, and hopefully they dig a little more into that family side and these deep questions. Because again, I think leading up to production and questioning, they really need to give more time for each one of these ladies to sit down with the gentleman, with the farmer, with the cowboy, and have these one-on-one conversations and see if they match in the family side. It seems like sometimes production pushes almost superficial aspects of the show, and it'd be nice just to see true interaction. Like, stop separating them so much, let them have some time off camera, give them time to have conversations, let them really explore each other so that they can truly find out if they have a connection and not just be forced to show it on cameras. So that's my 2 cents on that one. So we'll see what happens next week. Let's move on to our next farmer. Next we have Farmer Brandon. So Farmer Brandon opts to take Grace out on his one-on-one. Now, if you noticed in the last couple episodes, when Brandon has, the opportunity to get away, it's generally in the back of a pickup truck or out in the middle of nowhere. You got to understand that the man literally lives in the middle of nowhere, hours from anything in existence. So his one-on-one time is generally going to be in nature where, he's close to and they can set something up in production and everybody can get there. So that's why you're constantly seeing Brandon and his dates be in situations like this, because the man truly is a farmer and he lives in the middle of nowhere. He has a lot of property, he's got a lot of responsibility, and they can't just saunter off for 2 or 3 hours to film small portions of the show. So that's why most of his dates occur in the back of a pickup truck, under a tree, or somewhere in a rural area. Just how it is. So during their one-on-one date, they seem to have some pretty good connections. My wife and I was actually talking. We feel that, Grace is probably his front runner at this point. We'll see how that goes. Again, the drama in his house is between Joy and Reba. They're going to take each other out. I see Reba as she needs to go home at this point. Thankfully, they didn't have drama in this episode, but still, I just don't see the connection there. There's something fake about how she portrays all this. I'm not sure. It's just a feeling. Joy, I think, would be a pretty good connection with Brandon, but my wife doesn't see that. So we kind of agreed that Grace is probably the best fit right now for Brandon, and we'll see how that goes through the rest of it. So let's move on to their group event. All right, so for Brandon's group event, he brings the farm tractors in for some washing. Again, Brandon to me is like the epitome of what the farmer is for this show. He has a huge farm. He's got a ton of responsibility. He lives in the middle of nowhere. He has the farm equipment that needs washed, and he's showing the ladies what farm life is like. Like, these are the tractors. At the end, he explains to them at the end of the season they need to be washed so they can be put away for the year. Walks through the process. He actually gets each one of the ladies the opportunity to go under the tractor, in the tractor, and basically do all the nitty-gritty cleaning so they can see how it is. And throughout this process, I think they show two of the ladies more than anything, Annalise and Brooklyn. Brooklyn is just very loud and dramatic. Annalise, you can see she doesn't feel the most comfortable with it, but she says that. She explains that she's not the most comfortable with this type of work. And then it was a pretty cool event. I mean, I liked it. They showed him. He showed him what was on the farm. Like, this is what farm life is. It's not glorious at times. It's getting in and cleaning the stuff and making sure that it works next year so we can reduce the expenses. It's farm life. So let's go ahead and move on to what happens at the end of the night. Well, thankfully, at the end of the night, Farmer Brandon identifies that he and Brooklyn just don't have a connection. He tells her that, he doesn't see the connection and he's ready to move on. And she actually, bless her, asks him why. And he tells her, he says, I'm a quiet individual. I'm an introvert. I'm not loud. I like to be peaceful, and that's not you. And she's very dramatic, and she's very loud, and she's very outspoken. Let's move on to our last farmer. Oh, wannabe Farmer Mitchell. I have a hard time getting on base with Mitchell being a farmer. This is Farmer Wants a Wife, not wannabe Farmer Wants a Wife. I don't know if they had a hard time finding farmers for this season. Hopefully moving forward they don't. I actually had a comment in one of the videos where somebody said somewhere around, season 12 or something in the Australian version, they put a female farmer on here, and it was Farmer Wants a Husband for her. I hope we do something like that at some point, because there are plenty of farms across America, and a female farmer looking for a husband will be just as much entertaining as Farmer Wants a Wife. So I'd like to see that interaction in the future, instead of having wannabe farmer Mitchell wants a wife. But anyhow, Mitchell takes Kate out on a dance date. They do some dance lessons. There's not a ton of energetic interaction here, but they have a conversation with each other. I have a hard time picturing any of these ladies on this farm with Mitchell, but again, it might just be my bias side. I don't know. It probably is. My wife said the same thing, though. It's just hard to see any of these ladies really fitting his personality, or really seeing him fitting any of their personalities. So we'll see where the rest of the series goes on this. But they had a pretty good date together, and, they made out at the end of it. And we'll move on to his group event for the day. Well, wannabe Farmer Mitchell got a horse. He basically got the ladies to help him clean out the small lean-to that they had of weeds and put one round bale of hay in it, and he got a horse. So it's a first step at having a farm. I'll give him that. I still have a hard time feeling that he's a farmer, but Mitchell gets a horse. The ladies get to watch him ride that horse. Now, again, biased, I see Cowboy Ty ride the horse, and, growing up with horses, there's a manner that you feel riding a horse, and then you see Mitchell riding a horse, and it just appeared awkward. The ladies all thought that it was sexy, so hey, as long as they liked it, hopefully nobody gets hurt in the process of Mitchell having a horse. So that, in a nutshell, is Farmer Wants a Wife, episode 4, season 2. You need to step up your flirting game. Hopefully it helps you understand what's going on in the show. Again, no drama is refreshing. I will enjoy reality shows with no drama. I know some people tune in for that kind of drama, but not me. It's nice to actually see some interaction between, the ladies and the farmers, and see that connection. I would like to see a little more connection between them. I think they need to have more one-on-one time with the farmers so that they can actually truly dig into those questions. Again, we're 4 episodes in before anybody's asking, about kids. You don't really see that interaction in any of the other farms, so that needs to happen more often. In some of the other reality shows, they push that earlier on because you need to break that hurdle before you can move further into that true emotional connection. Unfortunately, I think that's a gap right now in season 2. So again, hopefully production learns, we move forward, we identify that in the future they need more time together off camera so that all the ladies can get to know the farmers and truly make a connection. So when they're on camera, it's a little easier to stomach some of those interactions and see some true connections happening, and just not that awkwardness of those questions coming up. So that's my 2 cents. See you next week for Farmer Wants a Wife recap.